Hello and welcome to the news at 6. The news is live on Joy 99.7 and hits 103.9 FM in Accra, in Kumasi and Love 99.5 FM, Facebook live stream, and over 30 affiliates across Ghana's 16 regions, including Shine FM Akachi, Radio Max Takrade, and Ridge Tamale. Get radio, TV, and online content on the myjoyonline.com interactive app for Android and iOS services. Coming up, Ghana Association of Banks assures the industry remains well capitalized, strong and resilient. Details, as it says, banks have continued to grow their customer base and expand their services during the period of the domestic debt exchange program. We have more of this in business, Daryl.
Bank of Ghana governor assures of adequate dollar reserves to finance country's imports despite delays in securing IMF program. Details on the Joy Business Report.
Also, United States Vice President describes Ghana as a leading voice for democracy and civil liberty in the world.
And a leading voice in the march for freedom, justice, and liberty.
ECOWAS Gender Development Center reveals recent upsurge in conflict and terrorism as cause of increased gender-based violence.
Conflicts between countries, the increase in gender-based violence, as well as cross-border begging.
We'll tell you about a high-powered delegation assembled in Accra to draft a policy document to tackle the problem. I am Maame Esi Thompson. Let's settle now for the details. The Ghana Association of Banks says the industry remains well capitalized, strong and resilient. In a statement signed by its chief executive, it said the banking industry as a whole has robust risk management and contingency planning framework, which makes it possible to navigate the current economic environment and maintain financial stability and viability. My colleague Joseph Akable joins me in the studio with details. Joseph, what else did the Ghana Association of Banks say?
The association states that while participating in a domestic debt exchange program by the industry in a national interest resulted in impairment losses on the holdings of Bank of Ghana and Government of Ghana bonds as indicated in a recent MPC report, the banking industry is fairly resilient. This, coupled with regulatory measures implemented by the BOG, the Ghana Association of Banks wishes to assure the general public and customers and clients that the industry remains well capitalized, strong and resilient. It adds that it is important to note that the core business of banks remains strong and they have continued to grow their customer base and expand their services during this period of the domestic debt exchange program.
Thank you, Joseph. Meanwhile, financial and banking consultant Dr. Richmond Ichiaini says now is the time for the introduction of the Financial Stability Fund. The governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, at a press conference on Monday, revealed recently concluded DDAP has negatively affected local banks.
Unfortunately, a lot of work were not done on it. It's now coming to hit us. Whereas we should have prepared before being hit by it. So we hope that the government will find means of supporting them, and the other institutions, those who are ready to capitalize, will capitalize to bring the banks sector into another good shape.
Now, Vice President of the United States of America, Kamala Harris, says Ghana continues to be a leading voice for democracy and civil liberty in the world. At a state banquet held in her honor, Madam Harris says despite the challenges facing the country, the respect for human rights remains strong and unwavering. She further applauded President Akufo-Addo for paving the way for Africans in the diaspora to unite with the continent in the Year of the Return initiative.
That the forces of the universe are on the side of justice. This remains true today. Ghana is a leading voice for democracy and a leading voice in the march for freedom, justice, and liberty. While we face real challenges, I look around tonight and I am truly more optimistic than ever.
Also, President Akufo-Addo says Ghana will continue to work with the United States to address challenges facing humanity.
The Republic of Ghana will continue to collaborate with the United States of America at the bilateral and multilateral levels in finding solutions to challenges such as widespread poverty, irregular migration, insecurity and human rights violations, including discrimination against women, terrorism and violent extremism, human and drug trafficking, piracy, as well as climate change and its attendant impact on the environment and livelihoods.
Later this morning, the U.S. Vice President will address a public lecture at the Blackstar Square and later visit Cape Coast Castle in the Central Region. Well, staying there a while longer on the U.S. Vice President visit, and you failed to represent the views of the majority of Ghanaians on LGBTQ. Ningo Prampram MP Sam George to President Akufo-Addo, according to him, could have represented the nation on the matter better than he did. During a joint press conference at the Jubilee House, Harris mentioned the importance of supporting freedom and equality among all people. Listen.
I feel very strongly about the importance of supporting the freedom and supporting and fighting for equality among all people, and that all people be treated equally. I will also say that this is an issue that we consider, and I consider, to be a human rights issue, and that will not change.
Well, President Akufo-Addo responded and maintained that until the bill was finalized in Parliament and his accent given, he could not categorically state if the activities of LGBTQ people in Ghana would be legalized or not.
This is not an official legislation of the government, but it is one that has been mooted by a handful of private members. So we will see what the final outcome of it. But my understanding from the recent discussion of the committee, the substantial elements of the bill have already been modified as a result of the intervention of the Attorney General. We will see what the final outcome will be, and that is the stage at which I will also have the opportunity to prevent.
But the Ningo Prampram MP Sam George, who is a key proponent of the proper human rights and family values bill, says he is disappointed in the president's response.
I expected the president to first and foremost be on top of his briefs and secondly represent the opinion of a majority of Ghanaians. He failed to do both. I expected the president to have clearly stated that the Ghanaian people respect human rights as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. And
now, the ECOWAS Gender Development Center, EGDC, says the rising case of conflicts and terrorism is leading to a surge in gender-based violence against women and children in the sub-region. This was revealed at a meeting of gender experts of ECOWAS member states for the validation workshop of the strategic plan for 2023 to 2027 to help address the challenges. Sandra Ulate Fator is director of the ECOWAS Gender Development Center, and she spoke through an interpreter.
New forms of terrorism and violent extremism involving women and girls, migratory problems arising from internal conflicts and conflicts between countries, increase in gender-based violence, as well as cross-border begging, trafficking of children. All these are problems that hinder the progress of the region towards a just and equitable and prosperous society.
Let's head to Parliament now. Majority Chief Whip Frank Anodompreh has served notice. He'll be demanding that NDC MPs found taking pictures and videos of how they voted during the secret ballot to approve ministerial nominees are dragged before the Privileges Committee. Videos have emerged of MPs casting their ballots in the voting booth. The NDC lost the vote. MP for Cape Coast South, Kweku Ricketts-Hagen, had alleged some of his colleagues were bribed. Mr. Anodompreh says the claims must be probed.
Well, I think it's a matter that could come before the Privileges Committee. And I guarantee that when we meet our conclave, I'll raise it before the Speaker. And also, before the voting, you recall that the Speaker has said that it is secret voting. If it's proven that members went in there with their phones and took pictures of what they were doing, then the Speaker may have to be guided going into the future. As for Richard, I don't know, but as the saying goes, who is alleged must prove.
Well, to Black Stars now, coach Chris Houghton says his first two games in charge have been satisfactory. This was after the team secured a vital 1-all draw against Angola. The win means Ghana sits on top of Group E with 8 points, followed closely by Central African Republic with 7 points.
I think we've proved we have a big spirit in the team, and in both games, scoring late. Angola are a very good side. We are very happy to have 4 points from the 2 games. We want you to win the game. You have to approach every game to win it. Sometimes you have a setback, and the penalty was for us disappointing. Thomas has some small issues. He has some small injury issues, and we felt it was too big a risk to start him.
You heard Black Stars coach Chris Hilton. The team will play an away game with Madagascar in June and wrap up the AFCON qualifiers with Central African Republic back here in Ghana in September. And that's it for this bulletin. You heard in our top story, Ghana Association of Banks assures the industry remains well capitalized, strong and resilient. And also you heard details as it says banks have continued to grow their customer base and expand their services during the period of the domestic debt exchange program. I am Maame Esi Thompson. Stay tuned to the Super Morning Show.
You know, Papa, see that? And it's Ricky Tika. Hey, Papa! Papa! Oh,